God.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 86 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and a little return back to normalcy, ladies and gentlemen, as we come off the high that was Belmont Stakes weekend, as we saw Dornoch take the Belmont Stakes. And I'll tell you what, guys, I did not see that one coming. That is for sure. A lot of people didn't, but again, just another horse with muddied up form that if any time was the time, that looked like it at 18-1. So congratulations if any of you guys out there cashed on Dornoch. I was riding the high of Thursday and Friday, was doing really well, and then basically took, if you guys are from the Chicago area, took a Goliath drop down into back to normalcy for me. But again, guys, thank you guys all so much for supporting us throughout Belmont Stakes week. It was a fantastic week all the way around with viewership, likes, retweets, everything. It was just a fantastic week. And again, congratulations, you guys cashed on Dornoch in the Belmont Stakes. As you guys see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now, please go down below the video player here on YouTube if you're watching live or as a replay. Hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button. It's the two easiest and best ways to help us out, because not only does it show us that you guys are enjoying the content, that it will push these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And for that, we thank you. Also scrolling at the bottom of the screen right now, you see Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That is tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern from the live viewing of this show, episode 355 of Picks and Ponies with only Pete and Paul. Pete will be hosting, of course, because Howard is still out on his European vacation, went to Madrid, saw the Spanish Derby, and now is on his way to Royal Ascot as their meeting starts, I believe, this weekend or next week. I believe it's this weekend. Honestly, I haven't kept up too well. If you can't tell, Belmont Stakes kind of stuffed me in a locker that day a little bit. So been removed by choice is what I like to call it. But episode 355 tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern from our live show on Wednesday, covering the Monmouth Stakes Festival Late Pick5. It's 4 stakes. It's a great sequence for our friends over at Monmouth Park. So Pete and Paul will be covering that for you guys tomorrow night. Of course, if you're watching this as a replay, after you watch this video, go on and tune into their show if you're betting this weekend on Monmouth. But guys, a few more little quick things, then we'll get going. Of course, if you guys hadn't gotten your book yet, A Better Way of Thinking, Matt Miller's brand new book talking about just fantastic betting strategy, contests, and just life in general. It's a fantastic book. Still getting through mine, but that's just my ADD. I always blame it on that. But if you guys haven't picked up a copy of your own, again, fantastic book, A Better Way of Thinking.com. Also, congratulations to those that won the book contest. I don't know if Howard's reached out to you guys yet in the comment, but keep an eye out on your comment. Didia won the race we covered for that show, but paid an absolutely obscene amount of money. She was what, 9-1, I think, and she paid almost $20 to win. I've looked through the comments. I know none of you guessed near that. I wouldn't have guessed near that either. But again, keep an eye out. And then for Saturday's undercard show as well, the winner of the Suburban was Kroopy. So keep an eye out on your comment, and Howard will reply to you down there and how to get in contact with him to get your book. Congratulations to those that won. Please listen to the podcast if you're more of an audio listener. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchors, where we post every single episode of the HHH Racing Podcast. So please go over there and rate, review, and subscribe as well. The Power Picks, guys, still going strong. Again, congratulations to any of you guys that cashed on Belmont Stakes Day. Again, fully rough for me, but not as rough for others on the Power Picks. We all had our top 3 on there, so congratulations if you cashed along with them. And again, all time, we have way over. We have 620 total picks. This was from last week, and $2.18, I believe, ROI all time. And that's going back since February of 2021. And you get your power picks every single Saturday, 2 full tracks, price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given weekend. The HHH Racing Podcast Power Picks got you covered one of the most affordable and profitable tip sheets on all of YouTube for only $4 a weekend, $15.99 a month. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description. And if you want to see any previous editions of those aforementioned powered picks before you buy them, or just want to learn more about us, HHH Racing Podcast is the place to do so. Guys, let's get right into this. I only have one of my co-hosts with me tonight, but it's the man that seems to be here no matter what, every single time through and through, and still is the newest out of all of them. So take that for what you will. But from the West Coast and University of Kentucky, West Coast bias himself, Noah Maher. Noah, what's going on?
Kyle, there's like some glare on my end. Like it's kind of hard to see you. It's like really bright up. Oh, it's just your forehead. Oh, got it.
What the fuck was that, man? The fuck was that? Is it because I always wear hats and you're finally seeing me without a hat on? Fine, I'll fucking, even though my fucking Jesus Christ. Now I'm self-conscious, man. That's fucked up. All right, I'll rep Crown's way for the boys since Noah feels the need to freaking throw me, not even under the bus. He threw me over the bus and had them run me back over.
Threw you along.
Oh, then see, well, there you go. Kyle's hatless tonight. And then he says, that's what's different. So everyone else is coming. Katie, TC Markham, Jim Pillars, Paul Conlin is here. Your guess is as good as mine on that one, Paul. I have no idea where that effort came from Baby Yoda.
2 words, no idea.
Well, 2 words. That's about right. I mean, I don't even have my Disney stuff in here. I can't even wear that to support. I actually Emma has a plushie of Baby Yoda that's over there. Unfortunately, I didn't have them, but if you did, again, congratulations to you. I have absolutely no effing idea where that came from. But hey, I digress, as it seemed like I was wrong on everything on Saturday. So that's definitely the start of everything. James is also here. James, thanks so much for joining the show, man. Don't remember seeing your name around here. Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Noah, let's not waste these guys' time. Let's get right into it here. The Late Pick 5 at Churchill Downs is what we're talking about tonight, guys. The featured race is race number 7, which is the Chorleywood Stakes, going 1 mile and 3/8, including horses that we all have come to know and love, such as WEBSLINGER, Tawnyport, Bold Act for Applebee's also running in this race. It's a fantastic race, and again, that's race number 7 on the card. However, the Late Pick 5 starts in race number 6, which is a maiden special weight, 1 mile and 1/8 for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. Also, there is a stake race before this. It is race number 5. It's the Monomoy Girl Overnight Stakes, obviously named for the fantastic filly that she was. And you'll see, I'll put it on the screen right now. It's a field of 6. There's 2 really good horses, and favored as so Our Pretty Woman for Asmussen and Intricate for Brendan Walsh. Band of Gold's also in there for Kenny McPeak and Brian Hernandez. It's just not that, I mean, it's not that good of a betting race because you really have 2 ahead of the rest. I would lean Our Pretty Woman in there just based on pace scenario. She's going to have pace pressure, I believe, from the 5 Marisol Sugar to the outside. But if Our Pretty Woman gets that inside speed, she looks to be pretty tough in that race. But again, 2 really good horses. I'd say Band of Gold kind of fits in that good horse, and then the rest of them are going to have to drastically improve to be able to fight for the win. And again, I'd lean Our Pretty Woman over Intricate. But no, that's not what we're talking about tonight. Again, race 6 is the start. It's another field of 6, and this is the last small field that we have to talk about on this card, because this whole card is a bunch of big fields. 1 mile and 1/8, again, like I said, field of 6. The morning line favorite is a very strong one, in fact, and I'll talk about why I personally can't trust this horse at 4-5. But let's talk about me. Corey Lannery for Troy Green. Again, your 4-5 morning line favorite. Second choice is the number 3, Queen of the Rodeo for Luan Machado and Pavel Matejka. I think it's Matejka, though. And then 4, Scene, Tyler Gaffalione, Rusty Arnold on the inside at 4-1, your third choice. No, I'm putting this picks right now. You're going with the 4-5 favorite. I'm going with 4, Scene on the inside. Again, no, if you're just basing it off the horse, and I'm going a little bit deeper on the trainer side than that, which is why I couldn't have this horse on top. But as a horse and just numbers alone, yeah, this horse definitely is your deserved 4-5 favorite.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you are a pick 5 player, this is either the spot where you single the 2 or you use many others just to try and beat the 2. Just kind of off of figures alone. This is a 3-year-old filly. It's just kind of been improving with every start. 2 back was maybe her worst performance, but I thought that field was pretty legitimate. Sidamara and Just Basking, your first and second place finishers, came back and won. And then last time, she ran a really game second, had a little trouble in the stretch, and then the horse that she beat that ran in third, she finished 3.5 lengths in front of Sanctify, came back and won and broke the maiden as well. I know I'm not, too much of a stats guy in some certain situations, but I just feel like if this horse runs back to that effort, I think she's going to be pretty tough to beat. I was a little shocked by the 4 to 5. I feel like that's pretty low.
It is pretty low. I mean, just basing it on numbers alone, she really is just head and shoulders above the field. And you talked about running lines, right? How she's running against winners that have come back. I didn't even honestly look at that last race. I was much more interested in the Keeneland race. Hutch Holsapple. That's absolutely wild to me that name actually popped up on that. That was a guy that ran at Arlington in the latter years of it. And there's a couple Arlington legends in here, which I wanted to point out. But Troy Green, guys, is one thing that I wanted to point out. He's 6% in the past 5 years, 11 for 171. Granted, a smaller barn, but at Churchill, he's never won. He's 0 for 24 at Churchill. This is probably one of his best shots. I mean, the only other horse that was not single digit odds other than Let's Talk About Me last time was Shipman in 2022 and was 8-1 and finished third by 6.5. So when he's favored, he's run well. I guess he just doesn't have the best stock, but he is 0 at Churchill in the last 5 years with only 5 in the money. So that's 5 for 24 in the money. And this horse had 4 to 5. Granted, it's justified by a tap and mare. Like, I'm not trying to say, maybe this is just the one that he's got a really good one now, and this might be the horse to take him over that line. But this horse might not even be 4 to 5. This horse might be, depending on what you're looking at, 3 to 5, something along those lines. I just couldn't trust a trainer who's over, can easily win for sure. I thought Horsin was a little bit interesting on the inside for Rusty Arnold, who obviously hasn't had the best start to his Churchill meet either. 2 for 22, 8 for 22 in the money. But this horse is working forwardly. Last time out, lost to Just Basking, who Noah mentioned before, and actually lost to Queen of the Rodeo, the 3 horse in this race. But that was at 1.25 miles. Got a good trip on the inside, albeit was basically tripled for the lead. Ended up just fading back at 1.25 miles. This comes back to 1.125 miles, where I think she's a little bit better suited. And that race at Keeneland, she was actually very well backed. And look at this race, guys. I mean, Neon Icon comes back to run an 81. Karen Colleen comes back to run a 73. Even Dynamism came back to win, but won at Delaware Park in an off-the-turf race and ran a 56. But still, 3 out of the 5 horses she faced came back to run winners. And even these horses didn't come back to win. I mean, look, this horse came back to run a 71 at Indianapolis, Horseshoe Indianapolis. This horse, and then Street Where You Live for Philip Sims also came back to run a 70 at Horseshoe, but granted on the turf. But from a 15 to a 70, all these horses drastically improved. That Keeneland race looks to be very good. And if Horsin's going to get the trip, I think just sitting on the inside, waiting for the speed to die off a little bit, I think the 1 Horsin is very interesting and a much better price than what you're going to get on the 2 at 4 to 5. Like I said, the 2 is definitely your most likely winner in this race. If she continues to run back to these types of races, maybe even improves off that 78. I mean, Horsin is really going to have to improve to get to that number. But coming out of those races, steady improve. I'd like to see a little bit more steady improvement, but coming back to 1.125 miles, I think Horsin has a good chance to get it done here as the daughter of Uncle Mo. Noah, you have Queen of the Rodeo also in there. Feel free to touch on anything I didn't touch on with the 1 and then go into the 3 Queen of the Rodeo.
Yeah, I was flipping back and forth between throwing the 1 or the 3 in second. I think just the potential upside with Queen of the Rodeo was kind of why I threw her in second. She debuted a while ago and then she was off for over a year. Some similar running lines to these 2, and I like to play the little game where if horses run against each other, not necessarily where they finish, but how the public bet them. If you want to make a case for the 1 was actually a lower price than the 3 Queen of the Rodeo. So coming out of the same race, it was really hard to pick between both of them. But like I alluded to earlier, I think if you're trying to beat the 2, you got to use both of these, and maybe that's not even enough.
Well, right, exactly. Like Noah said, it's either you love the 2 and you probably single in a race like this, or you spread and take 3, maybe even 4 of the other ones. Obviously, it sucks when you have to spread at a 6-horse field like that. But the fact of the matter is, if you're throwing out the 3 to 5 favorite, maybe on like a backup ticket or something like that, you can get good value just betting against a 4 to 5, especially even morning lines, taking into effect that matters a lot, because a lot of these people will see 4 to 5 and they'll generally just single off of that instead. So morning lines bring a big factor into that as well. I threw the 6 Flawless Quality in there in third for Dallas Stewart, who hasn't run that well at all at Churchill in the past couple meets. But this is a horse by Quality Road out of Giants Causeway mare. Maybe more slighted to the turf, as I alluded to with the Giants Causeway breeding. But that last race was just, she was off slow, saved ground, just was never in the race. Maybe it's the slop, maybe it's whatever. But this is a much more manageable spot, I think, with only 6 horses in this race. She was on the rail last time. Getting to the outside, I think, helps her a lot more. She's going to be more in the race. And you want to talk about a horse that's working. Even for Dallas Stewart, who does not crank up his horses, that's 48, 48, 47, 47. That's just 4 straight bullets from a horse, as I said, from a trainer that doesn't crank up his horses. So that was what caught my eye. Again, the 3 makes a whole lot of sense too. Just I might be trying to get a little too cute here. The 2 might just win for fun based on what her numbers show. But I think the 1 has a little bit of upside based on the races she's run, and the 6 coming off of that last race where she got slow in the good works. I think that one could be at least in the running for underneath at a good price of double digits at 12 to 1. But again, I could just be trying to get too cute here, and the 2 could just win based on numbers alone. I'm going 1, 2, 6. Noah's going 2, 3, 1. No, let's get right into the future here on the card. This is the listed. It's a listed stake, but it's a very good listed stake. It's the Chorleywood overnight stakes, going 1 mile 3/8 on the turf for older males. And you'll see it's a field of 11. And with the morning line favorite, I was actually surprised by this. I'm not surprised as in WEBSLINGER's been a lot better recently, but you always know Appleby, when he has horses, he's going to take money and probably will end up being favored. The number 6 Bold Act is your favorite. Gaffleone, Appleby at 3 to 1. WEBSLINGER, as you could tell probably by the title, is your second, or the thumbnail, is your second choice for Jose Ortiz and Mark Cassie. Tawnyport actually comes out to be your third choice for Florent Giroux and Christophe Clement. And then Sugoi, the 7-year-old, for Julian Leperoux and Mike Maker at 5 to 1, coming off a grade 3 win last time out as well. Guys, I'm gonna put the picks up on the screen right now, and we're different again. Noah, we're on both sides of the coin, which I guess is really good when you're trying to face this as a matchup. So you're going WEBSLINGER, I'm going Bold Act. I'm going to show the time form for this race first. Again, this is a very long turf race. Pace might not matter in the end. Might be a complete jockey's race. They actually have the 6 way farther back than the 2. I'm sure they'll be pretty decently close to each other. WEBSLINGER has no early speed at all either. Bold Act doesn't as well. They actually have Sugoi out on the lead by himself, coming off of that race in the Louisville. Although this is a little bit shorter than what that was. It's obviously a furlong shorter, but they have the 10 out in front, followed by the 4 and the 5. But no, like I said, this is going to be a big jockey's race. It always is in these long turf races. And WEBSLINGER off in a closing into glacier pace, I guess you can say, in 1 mile 1/8 at Churchill on Derby Day. They ran a minute and 14 for 3/4 and still was almost to close them down.
Yeah, just look who WEBSLINGER's run against. Just all of the company that he's faced in the past 4 or 5 starts it just seems head and shoulders above some of these in this field. I do like the fact that Jose gets on. we saw this weekend with a very familiar horse in Didia that he was able to put a long turf for in a really nice spot early on. And I think he's going to try to do the same thing here with Webslinger. In his only race longer than 1.1 miles in his career, Castellano actually had him a little bit closer. He was less than 4 lengths off the lead. So I'm hoping that Jose is able to get him a little more involved early, because although Sugoi is on the lead, I don't expect the pace to be all that fast. So I'm just kind of banking that Jose is going to have Webslinger positioned and try to get that first jump on Bold Act to your top pick.
And Jim brings out a good point that, he's 3 for 3, horse for course, is what you want to call it. 3 for 3 at Churchill, and the money's 2 for 3, capped off, of course, by winning the American Turf last year at Churchill at 22-1 over horses like Farbridge and others that were very, very good that last year. Major Dude, Johannes was even in that race that I actually didn't even know. Carl Spackler, and of course Otago, man. Come on, you got to mention where it's due. But either way, Webslinger's a great horse, and you might be right. He might be up closer. I just think as he's gotten, especially this year, he hasn't really come back to show that type of, even a lot of these other races at Saratoga, he was only 3 3/4 off the pace, and they were going 49, and that was in basically a bog, and that was 49-2. He's been a little bit farther back. They went super slow last time on a good turf course at Churchill that day, and he was still 6 3/4 back early. So I don't know if Jose puts him into the race earlier. I think he's definitely gonna have a better chance. Distance doesn't concern me for him, although I would rather have someone, for me, at 1 3/8. I think Bold Act much favors the more distance than Webslinger does, but I don't think distance is necessarily a concern with Webslinger. I think it just favors Bold Act more. This is a horse that came over for the Sycamore last year at Keeneland with Jamie Spencer of all people, and basically won that. But never looked like a loser. Came to the outside, was rallying the whole ways, only ended up winning by 3/4, but he closed into a 115 flat for 3/4 and was still able to fly home. Granted, that was at 1.5 miles. Then at Keeneland and the Elkhorn, they went 117 flat, or Silver Knot did that day, which is Noah's favorite horse now at this point. So I don't know how many, 3 times in a row now at this point you've had that horse?
Just twice. Soon to be 3.
Just twice. Soon to be 3. There we go. That's what. And then last time at Churchill was actually a lot more close than what this horse wanted to do. They ended up going pretty quick to the 1.25 miles, I believe, and then just didn't really have the punch to bring home. I think Gaffleone's going to have this horse right where he wants to be. I'm going to right to the inside. He was also wide that day at Churchill. Get him a little bit more covered up from the 6th hole, and I think that might be the key to victory for Bold Act. I understand he's going to take money. I wasn't necessarily the most happy with this pick on top, but I just feel like this horse has kind of had tough circumstances the last 2 times, and this is going to be if there's ever a time Bold Act is going to win, I think it's probably going to be here. If not, you can probably divorce paper this horse from now on, but I think this is a chance that this horse has to bring out a win for the Appleby barn at Churchill. No, we have other horses in here. You have the 8. I have the 3. The 3 is Tawny Port for Christophe Clement, who Terry Frank had on top. It could be completely down to pace scenario. This horse, Tawny Port's also ran fantastic in 1.5 miles and 1 3/8 before. Last time out, ran against Silver Knot. Didn't really break that well and was really kind of wide. This horse likes to be right up on the pace. Was actually back by 12 lengths at one point. Maybe Clement was trying to do something. It looked like he just didn't break that well and was wide the whole way around. So for me, I almost want to cross that out completely. Then you go back. This horse ran against Bold Act and starting over. And when Cortez was good in the Pan American at Gulfstream, his numbers to definitely fit. You don't have this horse anywhere, but I can see why he's not really consistent enough to trust in a place like that. But pace scenario wise, anyone that's up close to the pace, I thought this was the one to trust.
Yeah, you might be right. I just liked a couple others better. You mentioned a couple of the horses coming out of that Louisville, which was here at Churchill.
Yep.
It was just a strangely run race. I'm kind of more inclined to bet the horses that were betting in that race.
Yep.
So Bold Act and Utah Beach were the two favorites in there. Sugoi, who actually won the race, was, I mean, I think almost 20-1 in a spot like that. So I'm just, I'm not going to use that race as something to kind of bank on. My concern with Bold Act is, I have the same angle that I did with, I know they're different horses and they run different distances, but Mischief Magic was one in the Jaipur who I was against just because I don't really like when Appleby ships horses over and they're bet and they just don't get it done. I understand that he's had some trouble. And Bold Act, same, you can make the case that Totori was not one of his best rides back in the Elkhorn. But I feel like if you're really that high caliber, you should probably beat that Louisville field. So I think I might be holding that a little too much against him, but just another direction to look. And then Utah Beach, I'll talk about quickly. It looked like he was on the improve until that last race, which I feel hard to trust with that result. So I'm just going to give him one more shot, and I like the price at 8-1.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was the step up that Nacho was trying to get this horse into the Louisville. Again, Sugoi won that on the front end. I thought it was really not a weirdly run race, but no one really closed in that race. I mean, it was 1-2 the whole way around the track. The Gray Wizard was really the only one that closed, and obviously you came back, or you saw what he came back to do in the Belmont Gold Cup, beating horses like Siskiny, who did negative running. He might still be running, and obviously has a berth into the Melbourne Cup for the Gray Wizard. So obviously could be a very live race. I just thought it was really weird. They went super slow, to the 3/4 and stuff like that. So I'm giving Bold Act again. This is kind of my, one more chance with Bold Act. I wouldn't be willing to trust him in anything. If he's getting really hammered, I mean, you could take that as two ways, right? I mean, if he's getting really hammered again, take that as a good sign, but also hard to trust at a really low price. I think he's not going to be 3-1. I think 2-1 might even be a little bit low, but still kind of fair. 5-2 is definitely fair. Anything below 2-1 is absolutely not worth it for me anywhere near the top end, but we'll obviously see what that horse goes off at the top. I'm hoping WEBSLINGER and others take money to at least keep Bold Act a little bit on the respectable side of the odds scale. So Utah Beach is definitely one. And if you can go back to these types of efforts, last time out, like I'd mentioned about the Louisville, a little bit weird. If you can go back to continuing to improve off that 92, definitely has a place in this race for Nacho. Winning Spirit's a horse I gave a look at for Christophe Clement. I believe this horse was definitely a little slow based on time form scenario. Wasn't this horse in a race and scratched out?
Yeah, I want to say he was in one of those long turf races at Gulfstream that we covered. This is one I definitely took a look at just because a couple of these have been kind of beaten up on each other, so I wanted a fresh face, but just seems a little slow. And I didn't, with the 12-1 morning line, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, and obviously you can take a look at if that horse is taking money or not. That will really tell you. And the last horse we talked about was Sugoi. This was like Maker claims this horse out of a 50K, winning 50K claimer at Keeneland, brings him about 1.5 miles on the turf and, romps in that race. It just seems super weird to me. Again, horses in the Louisville, I'm giving a second chance, starting with Bold Act. I probably would give a little bit more thought to Utah Beach, but WEBSLINGER and then Tawnyport based on pace scenario wise, I thought was more than enough to go with in this race. But a fantastic edition of the Chorleywood Stakes. And no matter which way you go, hopefully you'll get value as a lot of horses look to take money in this race. I'm going 6-2-3. Noah's going 2-6-8. And Anders says WEBSLINGER always and forever. Shut up. This is like Pete's son's favorite horse, obviously, because he's a big Spider-Man guy. That's what Pete brings up every time. So shout out to Pete Visco and his son. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. Why can I not remember his name? Jason, that's his name. Thank you. I cannot remember his name. Race 8, guys. The claiming 40,000 is the next race in the pick 5. And we'll go obviously quicker through those. Wanted to spend a lot of time on the Chorleywood, as that is the future race through our sequence. Mile and the 16th, 4-year-olds and up for older males again. Morning line favorite is number 5, Systemic Change for Luis Saez and Ed Reed. Second choice is number 6, Arlington Legend Background for Gaffleone and Michael Puch. And third choice will be the number 9, American Blaze for Brian Lynch. and Jose Ortiz. And Noah, my friend. Very astute man, I see. We are both going with the fourth choice, number 3, Yono, for first off the claim for Tom Amoss and Edgar Morales. Noah, I'll let you talk about him first as we switch the PPs right now. Yono was a horse that was in these 30,000 beaten claimers, couldn't get out, had a really good race at Keeneland, granted in the slop. Then last time out, ran well, couldn't get the job done. But based on pace scenario here, and I'll show that up first, I think this is where he really could have a chance to thrive. First time off the claim for Amoss.
Yeah, it looks like others in the chat are agreeing with us. Yono's a weird horse because, he's posted some decent numbers. But if I'm being honest, the number in the top right scares me a little bit. It's actually 0 for 17 on the fast dirt, which, you don't like goose eggs with that big sample size. This is one where I think if it was just, a horse that had run a couple times and wasn't necessarily a barn change, I probably wouldn't like very much.
I agree.
Just that number off the claim first time for Tom Amoss just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Just the fact that he claims for 32 and brings him back in a timely manner for 40, he steps him up in class. I think that's a good sign. And, third off a layoff, I feel like, with these connections do very well here at Churchill. This is a little bit of a kind of an all or nothing, where I think if this one gets some attention on the board, I think you got to pay attention. Yeah,
and you'll see Amoss in the last 5 years, 48 for 232, 21% off the claim. He has great numbers with that. And as you mentioned, Edgar Morales is obviously his guy, and we can go to Amoss as well based on track at Churchill. And my DRF will not load. So he went, but it's 16% out of 508 starts. So again, we're talking about good percentages with very large sample sizes. I agree with you, Noah. He's also 0 for 6 at Churchill. But from pace scenario wise, fresh barn, one that's very good off the claim, as you said, bring back in a timely manner, going up in claiming price rather than down. I think Tom Amoss really thinks this horse can run, and with the setup looks to get a good one in here. But now that Terry Frank, TC Markham, we all like the same horse at 6-1 off the claim. Now we're not getting 6-1. We're going to get 8-5. And this, we're going to, it is what it is. Systemic Change, Noah, is a horse that we both have in there. We have the same top 3 for that matter. This is another one of my specialties. This horse was 6-1 on the morning line. I think it was benefit of a scratch, but did end up going off as the 9-5 favorite, is listed as one of my best win bets of the day. Granted, obviously showed it and won by 4, but it was a fantastic race there. Should get another setup here. So it probably, although off the claim from Chad Brown to Eric Reed. So take that with what you will as well, obviously.
Yeah, this one, you're a little worried about the trainer downgrade. I mean, even though switching barns in an instance like this might not be, the best thing. Again, same thing as the 3 Yono, the claim for 32 and then back in for 40. This was one where I feel like he gets himself sometimes a little too far back. And with the 5-2, I'm just not really willing to trust Eric Reed at that price. This was another one where I didn't know if the cut back to the 16th would maybe benefit him. He's a little used to going 9 furlongs or a little bit longer. So maybe a little too quick for him. And at the 5-2, I liked others more. I'll talk about background, who I have in second.
Yep.
Quickly, this is just one. He's 7 now, and the pace might not necessarily set up for him with the fast or the red coated on the time form. But going back to some of the races that he ran last summer, that 85 and that 82, I feel like if he runs back to that, he's got a pretty good shot. He hasn't necessarily come back to that, but those are some tougher spots. I feel like I'm inclined to give him one more shot here.
Yeah. Background, ladies and gentlemen, for those that don't know, I got to go back a little ways, but I recognize this horse in an instant. That somehow for my DRF continues to scroll up like that. On other horses, but you go down and Pam, right there, baby. I knew I recognized this horse right when I looked at it. This horse ran really well, actually. Rocco Bowen rode this horse for a long time. We got second in the Hanshin Stakes to Guest Suite back Arlington Park in 2021. So I knew I recognized this horse. And the thing I remember about background is if this horse does not have the lead, it's really does not like if this horse is headed on the lead, you might as well kiss the horse's chances goodbye. And you can see it based on PPs. I mean, this one race at Churchill at a mile was actually really interesting. This horse fell back, passed, and then fell back again just at the end there at a mile. But the whole form is like, if he doesn't head, he basically fades back anyway. This is one I didn't want to trust, especially at the price, albeit this is probably the lowest level that background I think has ever run at. He is 7 now. He's getting up there. So it might just be his time to kind of fall off a little bit. Third off the layoff for Puig, although has not run back to those 85s at all. But in this race, I think definitely has the chance to keep an edge here with the drop down in competition, albeit it's a little hard to trust at such a low price at 3-1. The other horses I thought were a little bit interesting. Tiwanaku was a little slow, but I mean, these numbers back here make a whole ton of sense. Just really has not been the same. And then claimed off of Amos for Genaro Garcia was a little bit of a red flag for me. Also gets a bug in Barbosa, gets the 5-pound allowance, although maybe one that was better a long time ago. Same kind of thing for Tapsational. Source ran at 88 at Oaklawn earlier in the year, and then went down to claiming, and then went down to claiming again, and now keeping it claiming, albeit with the equipment change. So, that might have been one that was much better beforehand. Seems like a lot of those types of horses are in this race. You have Texas Red Hot, who again, back last year ran mid to low 80s, now running 66s at Churchill. So again, another one. Frosty the Soldier, American Blaze is a horse, Noah, that you and I, I'm sure, both looked at and I was like, this is looks to me like a complete give up on this horse. I mean, this is only second time out for Brian Lynch. First time out was at Churchill, way lower than this horse had ever been at before. This horse was running in the Canadian and Ontario Derbies last year, 62.5 and loses by 20, and now dropped back down to 40. Obviously, the drop in class has to be taken into account, but looks like a complete give up for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm just trying to fight the AC right now.
No, you're good.
Yeah, this is one. I mean, in some of these situations, it's not often that we cover, some of these claiming races where, you can kind of stiff out some certain things. But yeah, it's a little suspicious here where, this horse was so highly regarded going long. They shipped him up to Canada to run in that grade 3. And remind me where CTM is again.
It's here, I got you. It's Century Mile, so it's up in Canada. It's I don't know if it's in Toronto or outside that Toronto area. I'll look up for it. Actually, it might be on the West Coast if I remember correctly.
I mean, they've got a grade 3 there, and they were willing him to run him in that race. So they thought something of him. Now switching to Brian Lynch, just the performance that the horse showed last time. I don't know really. I don't really know what to do. It's just seems like they're begging for something. They're begging for somebody to pick this horse up for 40,000, and they'd love that.
Well, there you go. Mark Lewis is Calgary. I have it just outside of Edmonton. So yeah, just north of Calgary in Alberta. So it is towards the West Coast from Woodbine and those other tracks that are in the Toronto area. But yeah, it just looks like a complete give up for me. Not saying they're trying to get rid of him, but obviously they want to put him where he's at least going to try to be competitive. But I would need to see it before I'm willing to take him, especially at a price of 5-1, what they have listed on the morning line. I'm going 3-5-6. Noah's going 3-6-5. Guys, let's Noah, it's only you and me. I don't know why I said guys. It's only you and me. Race number 9 is the second to last race in the sequence. It's a starter allowance, $50,000, a mile and a 16th on the turf for fillies and mares 3 years old and up, with a field of 8. Morning line favorite is actually a decently heavy one. Number 1, Generous Lover for Gaff Leone and Joe Sharp off the claim at 2-1. Low Country Magic, Jose Ortiz and Nacho Correas at 3-1. Elliptic for Axel Concepcion and Will Morley off the claim at 7-2. Noah, switching over the picks right now. I'm going with the morning line favorite 173. Noah's going 817. So Noah, you're going against the 2-1 favorite with the number 8 Elliptic, who actually I don't have anywhere. I'll talk about why. But it's just a complete hunch play for me. But can definitely improve and has been improving every single time off of the 70 buyer. And again, ran in maiden claiming 50, but obviously Maury has a little bit of confidence in this horse now.
Yeah, I actually like this horse quite a bit. So Saturday, we're going to find out who's right about this horse. Bill Maury claims this horse, off of the maiden breaker. I understand that it was maiden 50, but, I thought she did it fine. I thought she did it okay. The 2 works that she's come back since then at Turfway, 47-4, and then comes back with the bullet 47-1 on June 6th after the trainer switch. I just think it's all systems go. Bill Maury, very good off the claim, as you can see. That was the stat, right?
Yep, correct.
The horse is positioned outside. I think she's going to get a nice stalking trip as long as Axel Concepcion doesn't have her too wide going around that first turn. In some of these races, I like to key in on some of the games that these trainers play, what they claim him at, what they run him back for. I really like the fact that Maury claims this horse for 50, which is, maiden 50. That's not a very big level. This is a big step up into starter allowance, running for 72,000 now, which I think, with this horse moving in the right direction, I think Maury likes what he's claimed so far, and I'm going to take a shot with the 8 Elliptic.
Yeah, you would see that's the one thing I wanted to point out, Noah, because I really like the number 1, Generous Lover, who ran in a claiming 50,000 last time. Basically same thing, except my horse, Generous Lover, has 2 wins, Elliptic has 1.
Yeah.
The starter allowance condition is made for these types of horses. So let me read it out a little bit. Fillies and mares 3 years old and upward, which have a starting or claiming which have started for a claiming price of 50,000 or less, which have broken their maiden in a maiden auction race, or which have never won a race other than a maiden claiming or waiver claiming. So the starter allowance condition is meant for these claiming horses. It is generally a step up in class, but basically they're only facing other horses that A, have either only won their maiden race, or 2, which have only won a claiming race. So it's basically like the step up between that allowance race and that claiming level. It's basically claiming level for horses that don't want to lose their horse, is basically the way I understand starter allowances. So last time out in the claiming 50,000 for Joe Sharp, the number 1 Generous Lover ran absolutely fantastic. A hole in the wind for Lindsay Schultz. Now coming off of Lindsay, going on to Joe Sharp, another guy with fantastic trainer change stats, 17%, 31 for 187. So another big sample size. And I'll go to the time form here. They actually have the one near the lead. I'm assuming what's going to happen is Gaffleon's going to take this horse back, just like last time out, just sit right off the pace and being able to go by the 2 and the 6. You'll see Noah's horse, the 8, as 3 wide. I'm sure the horse will not be 3 wide coming to the first turn, either 2 wide or sitting a little bit farther back. But with the 1, I much like this is a trip where I can get a jump on a lot of horses like Noah's 8. And if Generous Lover can continue to improve off that 79 off the claim for Joe Sharp, I think the 1 is going to be very tough in this spot, and definitely going to be one of the horses that I'm going to center around a lot of my plays come Saturday. So like I said, the number 8 Elliptic Noah can definitely win, but versus a 70 and maiden claiming versus a 79 and non-losers of 2, non-winners of 2 lifetime, winning by 5 in that race, now coming to this condition. I'm much more willing to trust a horse like Generous Lover than Elliptic, but you're going to get better of a price on Elliptics. It's always the seesaw effect of base horse racing is basically what it is. But I'm going with the number 1 Generous Lover on top, and a pretty strong opinion at that. Feel free to add on anything, Noah. And then we have both have the number 7 in there, which is the second choice on the morning line, Low Country Magic at 3-1.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from with the 8. In some instances, you're kind of hoping for progression, and if you see that, you're willing to take a chance, and that's kind of how I feel about the 8. And the 7 could be another perfect example of that. the numbers here don't necessarily compare to some of the favorites in here, which actually this horse is second choice, which is a little surprising to me. But has run back-to-back 66s. You expect the improvement. Going long should be perfectly fine for this horse. Actually, won on debut at 5-2. Maybe it was a 6-horse field and a little slow of a pace. Kind of proved that effort. Last time maybe it was a little slow on figs, but proved that she can come off the pace, and she's probably going to get that similar setup here. So if she can show some improvement, Ignacio's got her in the right direction. I think she's definitely one to consider.
I agree with you. And actually, the one more thing I wanted to point out about the one, no, I forgot. I meant to point out and didn't. The only time this horse has gone long is actually on the turf. Won that last race at that claiming level at 6 furlongs, but won on the turf at a mile and 16th. So the distance necessarily isn't too much of a question for me. Bolt Doro, Dixie Union mare. This horse has been running at turf routes and has had a lot of horses at that turf route distance. The only actual horse to win on dirt for a hula skirt mare, or for this mare, is Generous Lover. So lots of turf breeding, although showed that this horse can definitely run on the dirt in the last one. I don't think the distance is necessarily too much of an issue, but Matt Miller brings up a good point. He says, love the pick, Noah, not tossing out favorite entirely, but there could be solid value here. Distance for favorite, enough of a question for me to play your 8. Good luck. And he obviously talked about what I just wanted to touch on with the 6 furlongs with the 1, and your horse winning at a mile and running a mile to 16th at Keeneland pretty well, and pretty well backed as well at 5-1. So definitely one that makes sense. Low Country Magic, talking about the Bernier angle we talk about all the time, with the paired buyer tops looking to take another step forward here. As Noah said, inherited the lead basically that first time out at Keeneland, ran super well, backed up that effort at this level with a good run. And again, starter allowance company at a mile and 16th. Nacho puts her right back in the same exact spot. Could run a good one and has the tendency to improve. Third time out off of paired buyer top. So definitely one to keep in mind as well. Last one I'll talk about is Yo Puedo. This is another one that comes out of this sort of allowance condition. This was at a little bit shorter, but one at the claiming level at Keeneland in the last spring, not this spring, last spring in 23. So distance isn't necessarily an issue. Also broke her maiden at maiden 50 at a mile and 16th. So the distance isn't necessarily an issue. It's the trip. I'm not too sure. She showed an ability to rate a little bit off the pace last time, only losing to a neck at this condition. But with her coming from sprinting to routing, is a little bit of a question mark for me. But I think if she's able to rate and get that same type of trip like the one, I think she definitely has a chance to at least hang in there for a placing at a pretty nice price of at least 8-1. If not, you might get a little bit more based on the distance running on the line. I'm going 173 and Noah's going 8-1-7. Also, shout out Raymond Cromley. Thanks so much, man, for joining the show. Albeit a little late, but thanks again for joining in and commenting. We appreciate it. Now let's move into the last race here. It's a maiden special going a mile and 16th for fillies and mares 3 years old and up. And this draws another massive field, as all these like maiden specials do at Churchill, with 4 also eligibles, a full field of 12. Morning line favorite is a lukewarm 1. The number 7, Appellate for Luis Saez and Todd Pletcher. Second choice, the number 6, Just the Sky. Jose Ortiz rides for Cherie DeVoe. And third choice, Moonlight Gambler for Luan Machado and Ben Colebrook, attacking a little bit of our Australian betting roots, I guess, or Russian ping pong with Moonlight Gambler. Noah, you are going with the number 5. You are going with Moonlight Gambler for Ben Colebrook. I completely get it. I have the horse in there as well. But you have horses. You have a horse that I don't have anywhere in there, so feel free to go right through it. The number 5, Moonlight Gambler, topping your charts at morning line price of 5-1.
Yeah, this horse was a fan of mine 2 back, and I mean she was so much the best at Keeneland. It wasn't even funny. I mean she was absolutely flying in the lane. Couldn't quite get there. Faith Understood is actually a horse that I think came back after that and ran second to Sweet Rebecca, who's another young filly that's very highly thought of. I think in the last race at Churchill, Pin Up Betty, who actually won that race, was very shockingly good. She came back, and I believe she won a stake either a week or two ago. Moonlight Gambler's a one in here. She's a little far back, but she's trying to squeeze through that hole, and then she just comes with the late kick. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough in the end. But she's flying in that last 16th. I'd like to see Machado get her a little bit more involved early, just because it seems like he's got a tendency to. She gets setups, but she's just a little too far back. So I'd like Luan Machado to get her a little more involved early, and then maybe she can come with that run. And maybe this time, I know she's 0 for 7, which on the board, she might get a little ignored just because people are kind of keying in on some horses that have the ability to improve, that haven't run that much and are looking for that step forward. And maybe they'll overlook her a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, 5-1 on the morning line for a horse that's run very well in a lot of her starts. I mean, she's 5 for 7 in the money, and she has run at Churchill before and run well at Churchill before. Last time out, as you mentioned, Pin Up Betty, who I'll bring up right now, came back to win the Regret with an 86, and that was a couple weeks ago, beating a horse like Buku, who's very, very good. Again, that big buyer improvements, exactly what you want to see, especially when your horse is coming out of the same race. Racontus also came back to run pretty well at Churchill at a mile with a 71. So, pretty live race coming out of and losing to 2 horses that came back to improve buyers. So Moonlight Gambler's definitely one. The one thing I didn't know about the horse was, like you said, no, I'd like her to be a little more involved. Doesn't necessarily have it as a fast pace, but does have basically 3 horses fighting for the lead. I think will end up being 2. But you see the 5 and the 6 for 2 horses are going to be pretty far back based on time forms perspective. So I think the pace will heat up a little bit more than what it has there. I went with the 6 Sharita Vo horse. You guys know how it seems like every time a Sharita Vo horse comes out, I'm usually on top of it, but on top of betting the horse on top. But Just the Sky last time out ran behind Spaladay at Aqueduct, where Sharita Vo doesn't usually run too much out on the New York circuit. So I thought it was a little bit interesting for Ship out there. Spaladay came back to run fine and an optional claiming on, was it Belmont Stakes Day or Belmont Stakes Saturday? I think it was Belmont Stakes Day, if I remember.
I think it was the day, yeah.
And yeah, Buttercream Babe, yeah, it was like the second race or something like that. Yeah. And then Positive Carry was one of the horses I needed in the Pick Your Prize contest for.
Yeah, she was a little disappointing, so I didn't really know what to do with Just the Sky, but she can win.
I agree with you completely. Just the Sky ran behind both of them. The thing I like is it's third off the layoff for Cherie. She's usually very good with these horses that tend to progress off these layoffs. See, coming off from Chad's not an easy thing to do. Gave her a complete year off, brought her back for a 4-year-old season, the daughter of Justify, and has basically became a whole new horse. Giant improvement on the buyer scale. Did kind of regress a little bit back last time, but lost to good horses. So I'm willing to give her one more chance here at a price of 7-2, where she looks to sit a pretty good trip. And I think she has the opportunity to sit a little bit more forward than some of these other horses coming from the back, i.e. the 5 Moonlight Gambler in this spot. Noah, you don't have this horse anywhere, and I can completely understand why. Coming off a layoff for Pletcher in a race like this doesn't exactly bode a lot of confidence, although it could need one, which I'm thinking you might be keying in on. Does look a little slow on paper, but that was back when she was 2 years old. She ran in the Jessamine, losing to Buku. She lost to Weigh the Risks and Hard to Justify, only to ahead, obviously, your future Breeders' Cup champion. Again, might need one coming into this spot, but I thought it was definitely at least needed in your horizontals if you're playing this race.
Oh, definitely horizontals. She'd probably be the 4th horse that I'd include. I thought the 3-1 might have been a little low. I know she's run against some decent horses that we've seen kind of progress and run really well as 3-year-olds. The numbers are a little slow for me. She has been off for a while, so if she is able to take that step forward, I'm just not, willing to back that big of an improvement compared to some of these in here at such a low price. I do like the fact that, Pletcher thought highly of her and did throw her in that grade 2 as a maiden. But definitely one, not that it isn't, that I don't like her. I just liked others more. I can go into the 11, who I do like quite a bit. Rest the Streamer, who actually is coming out of that same Pinup Betty race that Moonlight Gambler, the 5, was in.
Yep.
This is just one where I think the form is a little dirtied up, kind of an angle that I know you like, Kyle.
Yep.
Debuted in an absolute storm, lost a two-gooder for Antonucci, so you make of that race what you will. At Keeneland, that Citamaro Just Basking was a race that we both think was a very good race. And then first time on the grass, ran in that Pinup Betty race. She was 9-2 that day. She got part of a hot pace. I'm hoping Tyler, there's a couple in here that I think will probably send, not too fast, but I think if Tyler's able to get over and sit just off that pack, I think she'll be able to kind of get the first jump on some of the others that I think are going to be closing late.
Yeah, I just don't like the post, really. She wants to be forwardly placed. There's a lot of horses to her inside that want to be forward. I like that she doesn't necessarily have to have the lead, at least what it seems like on paper. I agree with you. I think that she's coming out of really good races and 2 dirt races, and her best effort is a little bit of sneaky one on turf. I just don't like the post. I know Chad's going to get bet in this spot, as he always does with these maidens on the turf. They're going a mile and 16th at Churchill, so it's not the smallest run up to the first turn, but with a lot of horses to the inside, Restless Dreamer is going to have to find her way to not be wide on the first turn, and easily can do it if she sits off. I just think if she wants to be pressing the lead, I think she's going to have a hard time not being wide on the first turn. So that was my only concern. I thought I needed to have the 7 in there just in case she does come back. And I think the one thing to point out, TC Markham, Todd Pletcher is 4 for 23 in the money this Churchill meet. So take that for what you will as well. Winning 9%, 2 for 23 on the win end. So it's definitely one thing to keep in mind. Absolutely. So there's a lot of, and then I wanted to include Moonlight Gambler in there as well with her, take a drink, with her recent efforts. I think I needed to have her in there. And again, with the questions I had in the 11, I thought it was worth going against the 11 that I knew was going to take money. I'm going 6-7-5. Noah's going 5-11-6. And Noah, going into your best bets right now, you're going a win bet basically in the match that we always talk about, that we talked about earlier with WEBSLINGER. You're going a win on the number 2 WEBSLINGER, and later in the card you are going a double starting a race number 9, singling the number 8 in that race. Hold on, I'm bringing it up right now. For some reason they gave up on me, but they're your best bets. Noah, feel free to talk about them as I could put mine back in because StreamYard hates me.
I feel like just those long turf races in general, I'm not super good at. So I tried to stay away from trying to, go with exactas or doubles. But I do like WEBSLINGER quite a bit. So I'll make a win bet on him, just hoping that Jose will have this horse a little more involved, stretching from that 1 1/8 to, I believe they're going a 1 3/8 on Saturday.
Yep.
And then fast forward to race 9. I do like that 8 quite a bit. So if Kyle is right and she's a little up against it, then that would be a little unfortunate. But if she wins, I would play a double into the 5 and the 11, which I'm just hoping that Pinup Betty race is going to come back pretty well. There's probably, 4 or 5 that I could try and Dutch doubles into, but I'm just going to try and, pick my spot and go with those 2 and see if I can get it done.
Yeah, we all talk about it always, no matter what your opinions are. They could be different from people next to you, but you take your best opinions, you try to play around them. And funny thing is that Noah and I's best opinions just happen to be in the same exact races with different horses. I'm actually going 2 exactas. The thing I don't like about the doubles, guys, is I love race 7 and I love race 9. Problem is I hate race 8 and I hate race 10. And race 7 is that maiden race that with 6 horses that again, I didn't like the 4-5, and I don't think the 4-5 into Bold Act is going to pay that much anyway. You might get like 5-1 or something like that, depending on how that 2 does end up getting bet. I just don't think there's enough value when I think Bold Act isn't that, or the 2 especially isn't one of those that I'm like, this is an absolute for sure winner. Let's take that 5-1 and move on. So I'm playing 2 exactas, which is something very different for me. But again, if I don't like certain races in the sequence, I don't feel confident enough to play those doubles. It's the race 7. I have exacta 6/2-3, which is Bold Act over Webslinger and Tawnyport. If Bold Act is a good price, I'd be much more inclined, as you guys know, to place a win bet instead of the exacta. I just have a sneaky feeling that he might even be bet down to 2-1. At that price, I'm not willing to take him as a win bet. But if he goes off to something like 5-2, definitely a win bet in differing there. But 6/2-3 in the exacta in race 7 and race 9, we talked about it with the 1 that coming back to the routing distance, I think it's going to sit right off the speed and have a good trip all the way around the track and continue to improve off that 79 last time off the claim for Joe Sharp. And I'm going 1/3-7. I have Yo Puedo in there at 8-1, and the 7 is Low Country Magic. Again, I could definitely throw the 8 in there as well, Noah, depending on price. I mean, if all those exactas are going to be, 12 to 20-1, you can afford to add in another a horse without risking too much money to make the value not worth it. So I definitely could throw the 8 in there, because if maybe the 8 is up against it in a way like that, but still has enough to get up for that second placing, which is definitely could be the case. I could see myself throwing the 8 in there, but 1/3-7 right now, I have an exacta in race number 9 for my best bets. I will. That's fine. Hey, a lot of hating for me in the chat, but that's fine. If when my numbers come in, and then I can, like I said, I'll laugh next week. And if they don't, then I'll remember that this never happened, and I'll axe this show from the internet, and it never existed. This is the way it goes. But either way, guys, it's been a fun night. Like I said, it's not after the Belmont Stakes. You have a little bit of a hiatus before, like I said, the really good stuff starts up again. But this race, this card, and the Monmouth card are 2 very fun sequences with some very good horses running in. And the thing that I wanted to point out was Matt Miller brought up Hawthorne's tournaments coming up at the end of the week, and obviously Hawthorne, a great friend of the podcast. I want to bring up and talk about it. He says Hawthorne, that's the weekend of Hawthorne Saturday and Sunday tournaments. They have the Hawthorne Invitational Tournament, which is when the biggest contest players in the world get invited to come over to play in the Hawthorne Invitational. They're at the OTBs, but they also have normal tournaments as well. No entry fee tournaments. Come out to the OTBs and play those tournaments for Hawthorne. Matt Miller, Howard, I'm assuming, and myself will all be there betting those tournaments. So come out to the OTBs if you guys want to say hi. But dude, there's so much hate for me in the chat. This is so fucked. This is crazy. Question for the team: will there be? TC Markham. That's a good question. Will there be any Ascot coverage next week? Howard and Davey might do a show. Keep an eye out for that. It will be most likely recorded, because obviously they are in the UK itself. But Howard will have a ton of coverage coming from Ascot, if not on the YouTube channel, on Twitter at HKravets, HKravets on Twitter or X. So ton of Ascot coverage, at least from his Twitter, if not on the YouTube channel as well. But good question, TC. Appreciate the question. But guys, let's wrap up the show here. We've been blabbing on long enough. But again, another fun sequence at Churchill, and again, a fun one from Monmouth tomorrow, as you see scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Thursday, which is June 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, episode 355 of Picks and Ponies, with Pete and Paul only, the boss, of course, being in Europe. They're going to cover the Monmouth Park Festival Late Pick5 on Saturday, which includes 4 really good stakes on the way to the Haskell Racing Day at Monmouth Park. For my co-host, Noah Maher, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 86 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering the Late Pick5 on June 15th at Churchill Downs. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.